Yeah. So, I mean, if you can turn back the clock here 20 years, take us through a little bit of that, the draft process, kind of your small school guy, what were kind of your expectations going into the draft? And then as it's kind of getting towards the end there, are you actually starting to think about the possibility of becoming Mr. Irrelevant, or is it just like, please let me get drafted? What's kind of going through your mind there?
Yeah, so leading up to it, you're told a whole lot of things, and I knew I was projected to be drafted. What I didn't know, and I wish I would have, looking back, is that projections mean nothing. And I was as high as third round and as low as seventh round, but at no point did I ever think I wasn't going to be drafted. Simply because all the conversations were around where I was going to fall into the draft. I was the first ever Division III guy to be drafted or to get invited to the NFL Combine. So, and I ran the fastest 3-cone shuttle when I was there. I ran the third fastest short shuttle, and so my measurables were up there. I mean, you get guys like Anquan Bolden, and I blew him out of the water in every single test there. And obviously, he goes on and has an amazing career. And I mean, granted, he was a quarterback coming out of Florida State when he was drafted, but he was coming out as a receiver. And to your point, my school decided, obviously, a Division III guy, it's a big deal when you're potentially going to be drafted. So they put on a draft party in my school cafeteria at Gustavus Adolphus College. And, my phone was hooked up to the main cafeteria phone. So anytime I got a call, everybody got quiet. There were hundreds of people there, and they were just hanging on every word like, ooh, I wonder if this is the call. And, I knew the first day. I mean, back then there was only 2 days of the draft, first 3 rounds, and then the last 4. I knew first day it was pretty unrealistic that I would be drafted. But second day I could be drafted as high as 4th. And I was starting to feel calls. I remember Dallas Cowboys, hey, we got 2 picks coming up. Get prepared to be a Dallas Cowboy. And it never happens, but everybody gets excited. They have a draft. And then, but the problem is, you got a lot of cooks in the kitchen, right? So while a wide receiver coach might love you, or an offensive coordinator might love you and call you and just be like, hey, be ready, or a scout or whomever, the player personnel person, GM, whomever, head coach is the one that makes the ultimate decision. So while they're like, hey, you're the number 1 guy on our draft board, receivers that's left, a coach might usurp that and be like, oh, he's not my number 1, and we're going to skip him. So, and again, these things you don't know. So you just figure, oh, I'm going to take it. The Dallas Cowboys said they're going to draft me. I'm about to be a Cowboy. Let's party. And then you keep falling, and then 6th round and 7th round. Now you're like 7 hours into the day, and you feel terrible for all 200 of these people that have been sitting there cheering you on, with bated breath. And I had never heard of Mr. Irrelevant. They cut to ESPN cut to commercial break, and my buddy, one of my best friends, who was our running back, he's like, "Hey, this is maybe you're going to be Mr. Irrelevant." I had no idea, and he explained about it to me. But he told me I was going to get $1 million to be Mr. Irrelevant, which never happened, unfortunately. But when the call came, it was pretty much ecstasy. I ended up hanging up on Bill Callahan, the head coach, because I was so excited.
Right. Yeah. So the Raiders at that time, of course, were the defending AFC champions. So that's got to be, exciting. Like, hey, I'm going to get to go to training camp they had Tim Brown and Jerry Rice. And we stumbled across a photo of you with Tim Brown, and we can get to that later. Sure, you know which one we're talking about.
Yeah, that's rough photo. Rookie hazing at its finest. Yeah, Rich Gannon, who's from Minnesota. So we had that Minnesota connection. He was the reigning MVP. And Charles Woodson, Rod Woodson. I mean, I played with a number of Hall of Famers. Trace Armstrong, really, really special time. Not a very special team to play for in terms of how long it lasted or my experience there, but the players that I interacted with was truly exceptional.
So after you get that call, they're like, hey, we're going to take you. You're going to be Mr. Irrelevant. What happens directly after that? Do you get a call from your agent saying, okay, they're definitely taking you this time, and maybe we have to go sign a contract out in Oakland? What happens right after?
So you get a phone call and the lady was like, "Can you hold for Bill? Can you hold for Coach Callahan?" Right? And I was like, "Of course I can." And he was like, "How do you want to be Mr. Irrelevant?" I was like, "I am." And then I hung up because again, I was so excited and everybody went wild and this and that. After that, really the people that are calling you are the Mr. Irrelevant folks, and who are the most amazing and generous, wonderful people. And I can talk about them for days. They call you and they're on it from day one. They're like, your life's about to change. You're going to get this call from this person. You're going to have to do this interview. You're going to have to do this interview. And because everybody from USA Today to the AP, you name it, they want to interview Mr. Irrelevant because obviously there's only 48 of us. 40, yeah, I think this is our 40th anniversary coming up. And to be one of 48 of anything in the world is pretty special, let alone around the NFL draft. So that was where I feel that the majority of my calls around interviews and scheduling that. My agent was in charge of like, okay, hey, rookie minicamp's going to be now, and I was still in school, obviously, and I was graduating. I had to get special permission, and begrudgingly, like Oakland didn't even want to fly me back for my graduation day, which tells you about what they're all about. But I had to ask for special permission to like miss one OTA or something so I could walk in my ceremony. But that's really what it was all about. It was about, gearing up and figuring out, okay, when's rookie mini camp? It's coming up in a couple weeks. You don't worry about the contract. Your agent does all that. And just try to immerse yourself into, okay, this is the team. This is what it's going to look like. And, I was all set to sign with the Houston Texans because they had guaranteed me a pretty nice signing bonus, and then also guaranteed me to be on the practice squad at worst. And so I was just like, I knew I was going to be a project coming in from Division III and not having a football background. So I said, you know what, hey, practice squad sounds great. I'll learn under Andre Johnson and those guys, and so I was set to be with them. And then you get to handpick who because a number of teams want to sign you as their undrafted free agent, and but that's who I had decided on. And then last second, go to Oakland.